Welcome to my chapter concept for Dead by Daylight, Blood and Thunder. This chapter comes with a new killer, the Raiju, a new survivor, Mason Renault, and their personal perks, and a new map in the Yamaoka Estate realm, the Ravaged Mountainside. I won't be discussing the specifics of the map, but just know that there is potential in expanding a realm with this chapter. In a remote village in the mountainsides, Kiyo Yamaoka lived a quiet and peaceful life with her husband and child. The area in which they lived was prone to storms, but the village was resilient. Unfortunately, one year challenged them with a series of particularly devastating storms. Homes were struck with lightning and burned to the ground, and heavy rain flooded everything. Slowly, the village shrank in size and Kiyo's neighbors disappeared. In an effort to protect their son, Kiyo and her husband sent him to live with relatives in a less dangerous area. On one unfortunate day, a storm whipped up in an instant. Kiyo's husband was caught outside, and despite her best efforts, she could not retrieve him. To make matters worse, a bolt struck their home and it went ablaze. As she sat in the raging storm, cursing the sky, another bolt came down upon her. She sat there, defiantly awake and writhing in pain as the dark storm clouds seemed to reach down from above and consume her. The Raiju's power is known as Raining Thunder. The Raiju has access to a special attack, the Lightning Bolt. This ability is a projectile that can restrict a survivor's ability to move. When struck, the survivor slides along the ground and is unable to influence their movement for a brief period. I would liken this to a curling iron. This can be used to put survivors in disadvantaged positions, ideally away from resources, to make a hit easier to acquire. This ability is also uniquely tied to generator progression. The more charges there are applied to generators, the stronger this ability becomes, having greater range, shorter cooldown, and a longer effect duration. Its maximum strength is achieved at around 4 generators repaired. Overall, I would envision this to be a fairly small yet noticeable increase to prevent the Raiju from feeling too sluggish in the early game. The Raiju has access to a special ability called Ionic Deluge. Essentially, she can enter a generator to teleport to another generator, and the downtime of the teleport decreases the more charges the generator she enters has. After using Ionic Deluge, a thunder trap is left behind on the generator she entered. Survivors must dispel the thunder trap before resuming repairs. To do so, they must succeed in continuous skill checks, whose duration increases based on current generator progression. Survivors who fail these skill checks are shocked, held in place for a brief period, and reveal their location with a scream. In order to mitigate 3-gen stalling, each generator has a unique cooldown wherein a new thunder trap cannot be applied after one is dispelled. Overall, the Raiju is a fast-paced, late-game killer designed to keep the tensions rising as the endgame approaches, as well as hopefully spicing up the gameplay from the typical focus on regression and match stalling. The Raiju comes equipped with 3 unique perks. Her first perk is Hex Supernatural Strike, which increases her action speeds like vaulting, breaking, picking up, and dropping for as long as the Hex totem stands. It also increases the instant regression caused by kicking a gen by an extra 2%. It is a fairly simple effect, but its wide application and instant availability can make it an appealing choice to create some early game pressure. Her second perk is Hex Thunderstrike, which is similar to Undying. It grants the killer undetectable when they go near a Dull Totem. However, its main appeal is as a Hex support. At the start of the trial and each time a generator is completed, all Hex totems are masked to appear as Dull Totems. They still otherwise function as Hex totems, but survivors simply cannot identify them off looks alone. This helps make Hex builds slightly more viable and can mitigate the frustrations of survivors spawning next to a Hex totem and cleansing it before you can even start your first chase. Her last perk is Hex Master. When within range, you can look at a Hex totem to identify it. I would imagine this being seen through the blue buff indicator at the bottom of your screen, or perhaps a unique color like yellow to indicate information. Not only does Hex Master allow you to identify your hexes, you can pick them up and move them. You can absorb a hex and then place it on a Dull Totem of your choosing. While absorbed, the hex is deactivated. This has a cooldown to enable survivors a chance to cleanse the hex once placed, and also reduces a hex's token count by 1 just so you can't hold on to something like Devour Hope and plop it down as soon as you have the opportunity to mori someone. Mason Renault grew up with little to live for. No money, no family, and a terrible system to care for him. It is from this terrible upbringing that he developed a particularly nihilistic worldview. And yet, as he grew older, the resentment he held never festered into violence nor hatred. In his heart, he somehow felt that there was some being watching him from beyond. It was as though it wished for him to lash out. He never caved to that thing. Though the world was a cold and desolate place, it was up to the people to create something out of nothing. He expressed all his grief in his artwork. He depicted revolutionary ideas, and his most famous piece, Death of a Dictator, drew both ire and intrigue around the world. And sadly, it was also his last piece. Rumors circulated that he flew too close to the sun. Some speculated that he was arrested, or worse. Others thought that his pain became too much. Yet, a select few believed that death of a dictator held a sinister meaning in the hooks that rendered flesh from bone. Mason Renault comes with 3 unique perks. His first perk is All for One. When you are hooked, after a few seconds, All for One activates an area of effect. Survivors can unhook you faster, and the killer suffers from blindness and oblivious. This is an extension of the existing debuff for survivors, but for killers, it prevents them from seeing any trails left by survivors. Once unhooked, All for One lingers for a few seconds. It permanently deactivates at endgame. This perk is meant to counter proxy camping, making it easier for survivors to sneak in for a save and hopefully lose the killer who may be looking to tunnel. His second perk is One for All. When you lose a health state and become injured, One for All activates for a short duration. During this window, you unhook other survivors faster, and completing an unhook action grants you endurance. One for All permanently deactivates at the endgame. This perk is designed to help survivors get out of difficult proxy camping situations and allow survivors to avoid trading altogether. His last perk is Defiance. When you are dropped by the killer and remain in the dying state, you gain an increased recovery speed and can pick yourself up. This perk is designed to maximize efficiency in any sort of rescue scenario. In the event that the hook is sabotaged or other survivors take protection hits and the killer drops you prematurely, this makes it so you can get back into the match more quickly, rather than sitting there and waiting for someone else to save you. Thanks for watching, leave a like, and put your thoughts in the comments below.